Hey everybody, it's Dr. Eric Balcavage. We're back for another edition of Thyroid Thursday, and today I'm talking about T3, reverse T3, and I get a lot of comments from people and concerns about they don't feel well as their doctors put them on higher doses of T3. Initially they feel good, and then they start to feel really crappy. And I want to explain why. And I want to explain why what sometimes physicians are doing may have good intention, but it's based on flawed thinking, okay? So this person had labs, TSH 1.5, which is normal. Free T4 is 1.6. They're on thyroid medication, T4 medication. Their free T3 is 2.3, which is a bit functionally low. Reverse T3 is 18, which is the high end of the normal range, in my opinion. Lab range probably closer to 23 or 24, but once we start seeing reverse T3 creeping up around 18 and we see the low free T3, it's a pretty good indication that probably they're not converting T4 to T3 very well, and maybe they're taking too much T4 based medication. Now there's no total T4, no total T3, which I would prefer to see, but what's going on here is this person was on thyroid medication, T4 based medication, and they weren't feeling well. I guess they went to an integrative practitioner or a functional practitioner who said, hey, we're going to put you on T3. They said this reverse T3 was elevated, and the reverse T3 was blocking T3 from binding to receptors, and that was why they had hypothyroid symptoms. That is not true. Reverse T3 does not block T3 to any significant extent, okay? So the high reverse T3 is not blocking T3 from binding receptors. If your physician is telling you that, that is not correct, okay? The issue that your reverse T3 is elevated and the reason the free T3 is low is because there's some type of cell stress or inflammatory mechanism going on, and the cells are preferably trying to slow down their metabolism. They're taking T4 saying, hey, we don't want that T4 coming in the cell and converting it into T3. We're gonna deactivate it so we can keep the metabolism of the cell low, and that's a protective response. And I've talked about why that is on multiple videos, and I've talked about it in my book, The Thyroid Debacle. So this person, if we look at the free T3 to free T4 ratio, their conversion is 0.17. That should be closer to somewhere between 0.31 to 0.34, maybe even a little bit lower depending on the person's age. Maybe if they're over 60, it would be down to maybe 0.28 to 0.31. But this is too low. This is a conversion issue. The reason reverse T3 is elevated is because of the cell stress inflammatory response. So what happened was this person got switched to T3 medication, and the T3 medication dropped the reverse T3 pretty low. I think they said down to 2, and the free T3 levels obviously went up, but then they started feeling worse. Why did they feel worse? Well, initially they said they felt better. Why? Because the body is not converting T4 to T3. And so if you just pile a bunch of T3 into the system, initially the body's going to feel good. But because there's this cell stress inflammatory response going on that was deactivating T4 to reverse T3, the same enzyme will deactivate T3 to inactive forms. So the person probably had to start ratcheting up their T3 levels to try and keep chasing their symptomatic relief. The problem is, as you start ratcheting up T3 levels, you start suppressing TSH, and as TSH starts to get too suppressed, then there's not enough T4 in circulation. And with low levels of T4, then there's less available T4 to convert to T3 as your T3 levels drop. Remember, the T3 only stays in the cell probably less than 24 hours is the half-life of T3. Not in the cell, but in circulation. It gets metabolized very quickly. The half-life of T4 is closer to 7 days. So there's always some T4, when there's appropriate levels of T4 in circulation, there's always appropriate levels of T4 in circulation. So if cells want to convert it, they can do it. But if you take higher levels of T3 and start suppressing TSH in the thyroid gland's production of T4, and you remove T4 medication, there's no T4 in circulation. So as your T3 levels plummet and start to drop 3 hours after your medication, there's not available T4 for the cells to use to convert T4 to T3. So yes, reverse T3 will plummet because there's no T4 to convert to T3. To reverse T3. So when they're seeing their reverse T3 levels at 2 or 3, whatever it was, that's not good. Because what that tells us is that there's no T4 in circulation to support him. So why did this person feel much worse after a few months of high dose T3? Because the T3 was probably not prescribed or spaced out through the day to keep them from having highs and lows. And two, it was suppressing the thyroid gland's ability to make T4. And so it was creating more hyper and hypothyroid symptoms at the same time for this person. They reduced the T3, started dropping the T3 dose. Guess what happened? They actually started feeling better. Keep in mind, regardless of what your physician says, reverse T3 does not block T3 from binding to receptors. It is not the cause of your hypothyroidism. Reverse T3 elevations are a sign of a cell stress and inflammatory response. Your best bet is not to try and artificially lower it by getting rid of T4 in the system and adding lots of T3. The solution is to ask better questions, which is, why is my body favoring the deactivation? What's creating the cell stress? What's creating the inflammatory response? What's creating the cell stress? Is it bacteria, viruses, organisms, toxins? Like, what is it? Is it emotional stress? Is it excessive exercise? Something is creating that excessive stress on your cells. Your cells start to adaptively downregulate their metabolism and ramp up inflammation when they sense cell stress or danger. And so when we look at thyroid panels, we can't just look at a lab value and say, oh, that's low, I'm going to give more. That's high, I'm going to reduce the dose. Or my reverse T3 is high, so I got to get rid of T4. Your body did not forget how to run its physiology. The changes that we see in lab values are a sign of what's happening. They are not the actual problem. Even if you had low T4 values and you got diagnosed with hypothyroidism, low T4 is a problem, but it's not the problem. The low T4 is a sign that the gland's not making enough thyroid hormone. Sure, we can replace T4, but that doesn't actually fix the problem. Like, what caused the gland to start malfunctioning in the first place? Is there immune, inflammatory, infectious process going on that's triggering the thyroiditis or triggering the cell damage? I know a lot of people, especially in the thyroid world, talk about reverse T3 as being this thing that we need to, if it's elevated, we need to get rid of it. We need to get rid of T4 and switch to T3. I caution everybody, that is not the right strategy for long-term health and well-being. T3 is a drug that will temporarily make you feel good, but if you don't address the underlying issues, why your body wasn't converting T4 to T3 naturally, and you just try and rely on T3, it is a very slippery slope. You'll wind up on higher and higher doses of T3 or Armour or NP thyroid, whatever medication you're getting that has T3 in it, and you'll wind up suppressing the thyroid gland, and you'll likely wind up with insufficient levels of thyroid hormone T4 to support the overall physiology long term. I hope this helps other people as well. If you have any questions, put them below wherever you watch this video, and you can, if you want more information and more content like this, go to the Thyroid Answers podcast, listen to that on a regular basis, pick up my book, The Thyroid Debacle, that I wrote with my friend, Dr. Kelly Halderman. And if you want some or need some guidance or some help, you can always go to my website, drericbalkavage.com, and schedule a complimentary discovery call, and we can talk about what's going on with you, and I potentially can provide some answers for you. Hope that helps.